on Mobile Rolling this episode. It will be a great pleasure of mine to be talking to someone who has been named as decorated, legend, everything, hero, my childhood hero, a fantastic man. It'll be my pleasure to be talking to Lindsay Head. So, my gal Sal, when did she? So, who trained her? You trained her?
Yeah.
And you had a few drivers, did you? But mostly Johnny Waters, or?
No. Well, when I got her, I used to take her down to Days Road when she'd been broken in and she was starting to be educated. I used to take her down to Days Road to the trials, and I asked Dick to drive her. You know,
Dick Webster,
yeah, Dick Webster, and. He said, yeah, because he had all Norman's young horses and it was hard to get Dick to drive them. And anyway, he drove her and she won 2 or 3 trials, and then I nominated her. And I took her to the trials on the Sunday, and Dick said, I see you got this filly nominated. And I said, yeah. He said, do you think she's ready? And I said, well, I don't know. You tell me after you drive her today, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, he drove her and won the trial, and he come back and I said, what do we do? He said, leave her in. So we went to Wavell the next Saturday night, and she, going around the first corner, she got into a scrimmage with a horse that broke in front of her, and Dick was tipped out of the cart. And Dick, the fantastic horseman that he was, wouldn't let her go. He was dragged along the track, holding the reins, and pulled her up to the fence. And that to me saved her career.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing that happened to her. It was just a bad experience.
Mm.
So we went to Wavell the next Saturday night, and she won. And then
was Dick on board?
Dick drove her, and she won, and then she won with her head on her chest, and anyway, the next fortnight was the Sapling Stakes. So Dick drove her again, and she beat Greenwald in the Sapling Stakes. Mm-hmm. And they
McGrath's horse from down the south.
They said Greenwald was always going to beat her, but it didn't beat her. And anyway, then about 3 weeks later, it was the Breeders' Plate, and Dick couldn't drive her because he was going to Melbourne to drive Bylaw in a heat of the Derby in Melbourne. And I said, well, what are we going to do, Dick? He said, leave it with me, I'll get Lloydie to drive her. And that worried me a little bit, he said, no, it'll be all right, So...
was it all right?
Well, I never try to leave anything to chance, and I said when I was driving her around the circuit before the race, the parade ring, my mate that helped me with the horses said, what are you going to do? I said, leave it to me. I said, I'll fix it. So when Lloydie came out to get on, I said, Lloydie, I'm a funny bugger. I said, if this horse gets beat, I said, don't you come back. I said, you get out on the Goodwood Road and keep going.
Yeah, he probably he couldn't see the humour in that one, Lindsay.
No, well...
That's fair.
And anyway, he jumped in the front, beat Greenwald again, and came back and said, is that all right?
So all the stuff he'd heard about Lindsay Head being a nice, quiet gentleman,
yeah,
he thought he shit himself.
I thought it was too late to say it after.
Exactly. No good. No good. Yes, getting it there. So he knew the plan before we started.
So anyway, Lloydie had the one drive on her, and she won, and then we put her in the paddock, and then
so that was 2-year-old. She only had 3 or 4 starts as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, yeah.
And then 3-year-old. What did we do on the 3-year-old
Well,
days?
she came back and she won the. She won a heap of races.
Did she win the Oaks?
No, she did. She didn't win the Oaks.
What happened in the Oaks?
Oh, she
What won that one? Do you know?
No, I can't remember.
So,
but she won the.
She won a stack of races. She won as an older mare, didn't she?
As a
3-year-old.
3-year-old, she won the Size Produce Stakes, which was always for colts. Mostly Victorian colts came across and won it. She won that really pretty easily, and she won a heap of races. I think she won a 5 on. And if My Gal Sal got beat, she always ran second.
So what? Is there any? How did you get the name My Gal Sal? Is there anything behind that, or was it just?
Well, we always called her Sally, and we put in a few names, and they were rejected. And Jules said, my wife Jules said, "Why don't you call her My Gal Sal?" And I said, "Gee, that's a great name." So we...
They're even better when they win 20, 30, 40 races, don't they? The name is better.
She was always Sally to us, but she got the name My Gal Sal, and it sort of stuck. And we went all over Australia with her. We went to.
You went to the Inter-Dominions?
Well, we went
to the Inter-Dominions in qualify. You qualified in the final in 71, was it in Queensland?
72.
In Albion Park?
Albion Park. I think it was 71 or 72. She ran 2 seconds and a third. And
then was it John Walters on the bike then?
John Walters was driving.
So how old was she then? Between 3 and what was she then? 6 or 7?
She was about 6-year-old.
Yeah, so in between 3 and 6, I know you went to Mildura Cup.
We won in Mildura. We won, and that year that she went to the Ballarat Cup.
That was after the Inters, wasn't it?
That was after the Inters.
So the Inters was 71 or 72, or 71.
Ballarat Cup was 73.
73, yeah. So it must have been 72.
72, yeah.
72. So the Ballarat Cup, which is a pretty prestigious race.
At the time, the Ballarat Cup was the best country race.
Well, it's not far behind it. I had my horse run in the Ballarat Cup, and there's no peanuts in the, they're all A-grade horses in the Ballarat Cup.
They were all great horses, and she ended up, she was off 12, and she got 3 back on the fence, and a horse called Pewter of Norman's led. It was favourite, and Sally was 3 on the fence, and with a lap to go, the horse that was in front of her couldn't keep up and dropped her back to last. And I'd never had her better than she was that night. She was the best she'd ever been, And I thought...
Oh, no. Yeah, bad luck's going to beat us.
She's just got dropped out of the race, and she was last into the straight. Reichman had gone around and was going to the front, and Johnny sort of half got on the back of Reichman and out-sprinted him up the straight. And that was... And
Reichman was he's a Hall of Famer, isn't he?
He's a great horse.
He was a great horse, Miracle Mile winner and everything. Yeah. So, but how did you get the association with Johnny Walters? Because it was... Where were you at that stage? You're still out north?
Still
out.
Yeah, we were out there.
Were you still in the pub?
Yeah, we were still in the pub. Oh yeah, we were in the pub. And anyway, because Dick Webster's involvement with Normans, and they had a lot of 3-year-olds coming through the system.
Always.
We had to look for a driver, and I'd seen Johnny, drive, and he sort of, he'd talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles, John, but he was a terrific bloke, and anyway, he got on pretty good with her, and she was a sort of mare that if we always try to, if you didn't lead with her, you wanted to give her cover, and we got in behind Dick on a horse called Lorwyn,
Which is another Norman's horse.
2 years in a row in the South Australian Trotting Club Cup, and got beaten an eyelash both times because Dick wouldn't let her out. He was. And, anyway,
so were these were still at Waver, were they?
At Waver, yeah.
So she raced through till what age, Lindsay?
She raced till her last race she won she was 9-year-old.
Okay, 9-year-old, and then
it was sound every day.
So you bred others out of Mayfield Scott.
Yeah, and, Mayfield Scott. There was a mare called, the next one after Sal was a horse called Pride and Glory. And she was a no male gal Sal. She had that sort of ability, but she would always jump out of her gear.
What was she? Was she?
She was by Arkin, full sister, and she'd always jump out of her gear, and so anyway, we got her pretty right. And we went to Strathalbyn, and I said to John, I said, now, if you get this horse around the first corner, I said, she'll win. And he looked at me funny, you know. I thought I was playing games. So anyway, she got around the first corner, and going down the back straight at Strath, there was an orchard on the right, on the far side of the track. And they used to have the automatic shotguns that used to go off to frighten the birds. Well, she went past there and the shotgun went off. Well, away she went. Well, she's half a lap in front of the field. And John's sitting there like Jackie, you know, who didn't know what to do.
And we win?
She won by half a lap. Yeah. But,
so every time John went round, he had a little air horn. He used to go boom, make out it was a shotgun.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But
so you went everywhere with My Gal Sal.
Yeah, well,
names. Where did you race in South Australia? Because there's that many tracks that have disappeared.
Oh, we raced.
Did you ever did you race at Victor?
A lot of races we won at
Victor Harbour.
Victor Harbour. We won at.
Did they have Barmer in those days? Did you didn't go up there for any reason?
We didn't take it to Barmer.
What about Perry? Did you go to Perry?
We won at
Strathalbyn?
Yeah, and
you were Gawler, Kapunda?
Yeah, always Gawler and
Kapunda. Yeah, Gawler, Kapunda.
Yeah, we won.
So was Globe Derby in vogue at all when she was still racing?
She won her last race at Globe Derby.
Okay, and who was on board? Johnny?
Johnny, yeah.
Johnny. So, I mean, they all know about My Gal Sal, and then you've bred some others out of it. But you also had a very good horse, didn't you? Yankee Doodle Dandy, that was out of a half sister, wasn't it?
I'll get to him in a minute, but I'll just tell you a story about the... in Melbourne, we used to go to Melbourne quite a lot with My Gal Sal to the showground. She loved the showgrounds. And she went over there and she won the Ted Dexter Cup. Ted was the captain of England.
Yep, cricket.
And he presented us the cup at the Melbourne showgrounds. And anyway, she was in the next Saturday night, so we stayed over there and she won again the next Saturday night. And then they had what they called a mile of the century. And they invited 6 horses to run in the mile of the century. And there was Reichman, Bold David, Welcome Advice, Deep Court, Adius Court, and My Gal Sal. And they were the 6 runners. And anyway, we went and Adius...
Was this stand or a mobile? Stand and start race?
No, mobile start.
Mobile start, yeah.
And Adius Court drew the pole, and we drew out I think about 5. And Adius Deep Court wasn't good away.
Who was on Adius Court? Joe Webster? Joe Webster?
Yeah. So anyway, it went to the front, and My Gal Sal from about 5 got in behind him, and was there right till Joe just had him boxed, you know.
Yeah, he wouldn't let him out.
And he wouldn't let her out, and she got out and she flashed home and missed by 2 inches. And you know what the trophy was for that race? A Mercedes motor car. And the biggest bloody trouble with all that was that our neighbours were the people,
The Helpsers,
the Helpsers,
They had-
had Addis and Deep Court, and they were our neighbours at Waterloo Corner, and I used to see them driving the car around every day of the week.
Oh, you want to go and let the tyres down, wouldn't you, Lindsay?
Gee, I wasn't very happy, I can tell you.
But I'm glad that it hasn't affected you.
No.
After 50 years.
No, and actually the trainer of Addis and Deep Court was a guy called Bob Whiting.
Yeah.
And I went to school with him.
Yeah, Bob Whiting and Joe Webster.
Yeah.
They talk about Dick and Lloydie and all that, but there wasn't many too many better than Joe when he was in front. He would very rarely get beaten.
No, he was, and he was a nice bloke.
Yeah.
You know, as well.
So you, at this stage, she raced up until that year. What other horses did you have? You would have had others along the way, hoping to get another My Gal Sal.
Yeah, we all did, you know, and she paid for the rest of them. Some of it weren't that good, but most of them won. We had a horse called out of Pride and Glory, called Little Big Shot, and he won the Cadena Sapling Stakes by half a lap.
So who was training him?
I was.
You was, and who was driving him then? Was Johnny still there?
Yeah, Johnny was always there from then on. He drove her, and she won by half a lap, and he won, and he was a little big shot. He was a, you know, he was.
What was he, 10% over or something? What was he by?
He was by.
Not sure.
Yeah, 10% over.
10% over.
Yeah. And anyway, he bolted in, and then he won about 3 or 4 races, and we got an offer from America for him, and we sold him. And then the next good one that came along was I mean, I had a horse called Zippity Doodah. She won races. I had a horse called Ready Set Go. My daughter won 3 or 4.
See, a lot of people wouldn't know that's your daughter Cherie, is it?
Yeah.
She actually, how many drives did she drive? A few winners, I think.
Yeah, she would have driven a handful, I suppose, 8 or 10 winners, you know. And
so when you got out of the game, she had no.
I'll tell you the reason I got out of the game, but then with the reason I got out of the game was that one night we had Ready Set Go in at Kapunda, and Cherie was a bit of a daredevil. She wouldn't let the boys push her around and that sort of thing. And anyway, she had a gutser, and she was in the hospital up there at Kapunda, and they rang me up because I had a football commitment, and my mates took her to the track, and anyway they rang me up and said Cherie's in the hospital, and I said, oh, that's not very good. How's the horse? Well, I've been in trouble about that ever since.
Well, I don't think putting it on mobile rolling is going to get you out of that trouble, Lindsay. I can just reassure you of that.
That was the beginning of the end of
everything.
My trotting career, because but in between that, I ended up breeding a horse called Sleepyhead, and he was very good, and he won a couple of races, but he bowed a tendon, and unfortunately, and then I got Yankee Doodle Dandy, and Yankee Doodle Dandy, I broke him in, and I used to break them all in myself after, you know, when we got to the farm and that sort of thing. And anyway, I got the Yankee, and he won 5 out of his first 8 races, and then he won the Breeders' Plate, and then he won the Golden Nursery, and Trevor Kelly drove him.
Okay, so we're going backwards a bit, but with My Gal Sal, so you had Dick Webster drove it.
Yeah.
You had Johnny Waters drove it.
Yeah, and Lloydie drove it.
Lloydie drove it. No other drivers.
No.
So when you went to Melbourne, it was either Dick or John?
Didn't drive her.
John did.
Johnny Walters drove her all the time, and he drove her in the Inter-Dominion. And we were very unlucky in the Inter-Dominion in
Albion
Park because she'd never ever done anything wrong in all her career other than the first night she got knocked over. And we went up there and it was raining cats and dogs, and we worked them. I can remember working with Bowl David, with Alfie Simons and that sort of thing. And anyway, she ended up rubbing up in her hobbles, and we couldn't understand it. And anyway, Jim Hurley came up there, and he was at the Inter-Dominion, and he reshot her because she was touching one of her boots, you know, her shin boots actually, and he reshot her, and we still couldn't get her away from. She was marking up with her hobbles, and we ended up measuring the hobbles, and they'd shrunk 2 inches with the rain. The leather hobbles, the strap, and they'd shrunk. So we fixed that, and she ran in the 2 heats, and she was unlucky in 2 out of the 3, and we went for a trip on the Nerang River because we were staying at Southport with a bloke called Phyllis, and anyway. We went for a trip on the Nerang River, and they were breaking up land on the Nerang River, and they were $11,000 a block. And I said to my wife, if Sally wins a heat, we'll buy one of those. And she ran 2 seconds a third. We didn't buy one, and we went back there 5 years later, and they were $500,000 a block.
So she raced in the Mildura Cup. Did she win she won a heat? Did she win the final or not?
No, she got beaten in the second place in the final.
Yeah, see that your horse is exactly the same as my horse that I had, Major Crocker. Won a heat, ran second in the final. Yeah. Champion horse, paid for the rest of them. Yeah. My gal Salmai's the same. So,
exactly the same. Yeah.
You won a Ballarat Cup. We didn't. So you finished with all the horses. My gal Sal, did she produce any?
No, she had one foal, and he. We got him going, and he.
What was he by? Do you remember?
He was by Tapa Boy, yeah. And he ended up breaking down. And so I gave him to a kid as a hack, and we sent. I always wanted to send my gal Sal to Kentucky, over to BJ Lodge. BJ Lodge.
Yep.
Yeah, and we. And I didn't like to let her out of my sight, so I thought, well, I don't know what this BJ Lodge is like. We'll go over and have a look. So we got the kids and Jill, and we went over to BJ Lodge, and we drove up, and the first house we saw, oh, gee, and all these fences, and the first house was a beautiful house. Then we drove 100 yards, and there was a bigger and better one. Then we drove up the road, and there was a house like you can go on with the wind. You know, Bernie Ahern's. Yeah. You ever been there?
No, but I know he had Kentucky and those other horses he bought out from America.
It was a magnificent property. Yeah. And so we drove straight home, put her on the float and brought her back. And she had a problem with her cervix. It kept closing up. They had to give her antibiotics and we believe it killed her immune system because she got crook. And she died in the float on the way to Werribee.
Oh God, that's not good.
And she only had the one foal.
So, when you're finished with all the horses, do you follow the trots at all now, Lindsay? Do you watch them on the Sky Channel or anything?
No, I don't.
You don't watch them?
I don't much. I watch the races though.
You watch the gallop. So, what's the last time you went to the trots? How many years ago?
Oh.
When's the last time you went to the trots?
It'd be 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
Yeah.
So you had briefly you had a career in football where you're being decorated as a footballer. It's obviously you've met. I suppose it's made your life really, hasn't it? With all the people that you would know and the champions you played with, and then getting into the pub game and having a horse like My Gal Sal. your life would be surrounded by all those people you met through sport, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, it is really, and we had a great time with the football situation because I played 19 years of league footy, and
so you won 3 McGarry medals before your mid-20s, didn't you?
Yeah, and I was the first player to play 300 games in South Australia,
and you realise now that that's not really going to happen, is it? Because if you're going to win 300, you're going to be playing in that other competition, and it's
right.
not going to happen. So what is that the record, or does Grantley Filkey hold that? What's the record?
Oh, not now. No, I was the first. I finished up with 327 league games and 38 state games.
So how old were you when you played your last game of footy?
I was almost 35.
And that was still playing with Torrens? You didn't play for anyone else?
No, I was always Torrens.
And were you still playing in the A's at 35?
Oh, yeah.
At 35 years of age?
Oh, yeah. No, I was almost 35. I played. I finished in 1970, and it was the last chance that we had. We played Norwood at Norwood Oval, and the week before we'd got beaten, and that was the last chance we had of making the finals. Mm-hmm. So I said to the club, look, I'll retire after the next game, which was at Norwood Oval, and one of the reasons I picked Norwood Oval at that time was that Bob Hank finished his career at Norwood Oval as well.
Okay.
And so I thought, he was my childhood hero, so I'll finish at the Norwood Oval.
So who were the best footballers that you played against?
I stood Ted Whitten in the first game he played for Victoria, and he was a pretty good footballer. He was a dirty bugger, but he'd hit you with the kitchen sink. But he was a great character. I played one of the best players I saw was Polly Farmer. He one of the best players I stood was as a guy called Kevin Murray. He used to give me a hell of a hard time because he was tough, and on a half-back flank, if you're playing half forward, it was hard work in those state games.
So what about when you was at Torrens? The players that you played with at Torrens. I barracked for Torrens as a kid, so you had your Fred Bills.
When I started with the three Hank brothers, Alf Roberts, he's the only one that's other than me that's still alive from the '53 grand final. Jim Coverlid, Don Pryor, Jack Carr, Errol Lodge.
So these are
Charlie Pye.
These are all in the 50s, aren't they?
What
about in your later in your career when you would have had
the later part of my career was Bob Shearman came across, and he was a teammate until he went to Sturts, and there was Bob Morrell and
Trevor Searle, Johnny Willis.
Johnny Willis was in the 50s.
Was he? Oh, sorry, yeah.
He was in the 53 grand final.
Brian Mulvihill, did you play with Brian?
Brian Mulvihill. I think I said Bob Morrell. David Lee.
Leapy Lee from he played for the club I played for in Perry Risdons. Then he ended up in Port Augusta. Yeah,
David there, and there were a lot of good players. We in Jeff Kingston.
Yeah, Jeff Kingston. He used to write in the advertising
and Neil Hawke.
Neil Hawke, the cricketer.
From Port Adelaide. Neil came from Port Adelaide, and he came to Torrens because he was picked in the port side, and he kicked 10 goals. And that
wasn't enough.
And the next week he got dropped. And
shouldn't have kicked 10.
And of course Rexy Johns was there full forward from Port, and he came back from injury. So Hawke Neil spat the dummy and came to Torrens. But Neil Hawke, he was a great cricketer, but he was a wonderful footballer. Neil Hawke.
So do you follow the AFL or the South Australian National Football League anymore?
We follow the Crows. We've been Crow supporters, you know, and we watch it from afar. We go to Melbourne to see most grand finals because with the AFL Hall of Fame they send us tickets.
No, that's good. Yeah.
You know, so we go over, and we generally go to Melbourne. Other than with this COVID, we generally go to Melbourne each year. The AFL fly us over, put us up in a 5-star hotel, and we go to the
grand final and the breakfast.
No, the Hall of Fame dinner. Free in the middle of the year. So we quite look forward to that.
Well, that's because you deserve it, because not everyone's in the Hall of Fame, are they?
No, I was lucky enough to be, when they started it, the inaugural 100 players that were picked. I was one of them. So
that's good.
From 1836 or something till when they started, it was pretty good.
All right. Well, I think we'll better wind her up now. It was fantastic to talk to you today, Lindsay. For a man of 86. You're doing pretty darn good, because I'm sure I'm not going to be like that when I'm 86. So thanks for all your time, and I'm sure that all the viewers will be glad to be watching this show tonight.
I'm very pleased to have been on, and I hope that it comes across as well as it should. Thanks.
Thank you.